And this is what I believe is so important in our lives, is to be able to take the opportunity to pause, take a step back, and reflect together on where we have come from and where we're going to. Of course, in the current circumstances, um, the theme of the webinar that we were thinking about is ever more and even more present, from crisis to confidence. Of course, with everything that's going on in the world today, um, it is quite there's a lot of uncertainty and unsettling that is going on. And of course, we have various ways of navigating that. And what hopefully we will be able to explore together is how, uh, with a with the approach that we have and cover in our integral methodology and the journey that we learn together and we practice together, how the stories, in particular of Hannah and Olga, are going to give us and shed some light on what that might be and what inspiration that might give you as we are navigating through the current times together. So before we start, what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of a background as to who we are. And for that, I'm going to be sharing my screen. And as you can see here, this is a photograph of the Graduate School of Business in South Africa, in Cape Town. And this is where it all started 24 years ago, where Janine, who is with us today, and she's going to be speaking a little bit later, for us to be able to also get a sense from her perspective of what brought her to coaching, and in particular, because she is the one who is facilitating coaching for development and the lead faculty. And it's the Center for Coaching started at the business school, birthed out of the conversation between Janine and Craig O'Flaherty, who many of you have met in the courses that you did previously. And 10 years ago, we decided that it was time to start the Swiss Center for Coaching here near Geneva. And what is it that the center does? Many of you know us intimately, and of course, you're very well aware of the programs that we run. But for those of you who don't know us so well, there are three areas in which we intervene. And the first is, of course, teaching, which is the core of what we do and what we love about the work that we bring to the world. And the teaching happens through three main areas, which is one, coaching for development, which is our core program to introduce and bring people on to a coaching, learning about coaching, and to understand how to work with somebody over time, building their competency. And we'll go into that in more depth. And of course, this is followed by the professional coaching course, which is a year-long program to enable you to deepen your capacity to be able to work with somebody more on a vertical sense of development. Both of them are ICF accredited, and of course at the Graduate School of Business and New Ventures West. In addition, we've got a leadership conversation series, which is all about how do we take those principles of integral coaching and enable leaders to be able to have the conversations that matter, not only a coaching type conversation, but also other conversations such as feedback, courageous conversations, realignment, which are critical for us to be able to have the success that we yearn for in a way that does not damage relationships, but rather cultivates them. So this is where we have our teaching arm. And of course, coaching, one-on-one team and group coaching, and consulting, where we work with organizations, building coaching cultures or in-house leadership development. Just to give you a background as to what we do. Integral coaching, and this, we're going to be talking about this as in the stories that we're going to be sharing with Olga and Hannah. For us to get a sense of what is integral coaching, it's important to put that into perspective, to say, we look at not only how we think about the world and cognitively engage with the world, but we also engage with the emotional space and our somatic space. And we integrate those in a way for us to be able to make what is perhaps not so visible to us visible in order for us to be able to find our way forward. The most poignant example was something I shared with somebody on a call earlier today who's thinking about doing one of our programs. And it was to say that when I came to coaching, I had studied martial arts for many years, but I had not and ever made the link between taking what I had, the martial arts experience that I had grown over the years, into the workplace and the work that I was doing. And just through doing a course and getting that perspective helped me to take that from the background into the foreground. So that's I feel, a very powerful example for me of something that came alive due to the fact of my being able to see the world from a different perspective using the approach and methodology we're going to work on today. And of course, we all have problems. Many of us, are stuck with our problem. And what we want to do here with the approach that we're going to be covering is to say the person is what we're interested in. How can we work with the person, not the problem, in order for the person to be able to find a new way that the person is now better equipped to solve future ones. So hopefully you will get a perspective of what that is as we go through the stories and elements that we're going to be sharing today with Olga and with Hannah. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Hannah Gredley and Olga Klimanovich. I'm delighted that they agreed to join me today on our webinar with all of you and share a little bit about their journeys and what brought them to coaching, but in the perspective of the topic that we're addressing today, from crisis to confidence, and how that has inspired or infused their coaching journey. Because I think, as I was saying at the introduction, this is something, of course, that's even more important in the times that we're facing, as to how we can engage, of course, with the uncertainty around us and the crises that are unfolding. But how do we engage in a way where we can take care of what we can control of, which is within ourselves, and not be triggered into responses which are not necessarily helpful, which we have all experienced and we will continue to experience. But how do we do that in a way that is helpful to both ourselves and to others around us, in order for us to be able to more skillfully and effectively navigate the situations that we're confronted with? And so your stories, I'm really looking forward to that, both of Olga and Hannah, and how we're going to weave our conversation around the topic that we're going to be addressing today. So first of all, I'd like to introduce our two guest speakers today. And so Olga brings with her a wealth of experience from international business, extensive studies, and of course, coaching practice. She's somebody who has and brings that vision and that strategic leadership kind of element to the work that she does. And at the moment, she's dividing her time between consulting and executive coaching. And Hannah brings with her also a wealth of experience and hails to us from, as you can see, Chamonix in France, where she's very close to the mountain. And the elements around, which is something which I find very inspirational, in addition to your extensive experiences, your studies now more and more so in the somatic space, about how we bring ourselves into the space of intuition and presence through our nervous system, which inhabits our bodies. And I'm very curious as to how that has also infused your coaching work. So we'll be having a conversation together with Olga and Hannah around that, and drawing on your background and experience in how you've navigated the crises to confidence, and what this has inspired you. So perhaps let me start with you, Olga. And very simply, that question around from crisis to confidence, What has that inspired in you, and what reflections did that bring up as you were thinking about our conversation today?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. I loved the subject because in the beginning it didn't mean much to me, but I thought, okay, let me think about it. And then I thought, right, every time I turn to coaching, I'm always in crisis. And and then I continued thinking more and more. And every time I kind of go through the coaching journey, I become very confident. But then I looked back and I thought, but I don't solve the question that that I bring to the table initially. And sort of that intrigued me. So I'm going to share two stories with you, how this is happening and why, and how coaching uh, helps me get the confidence, even though I come to coaching without asking for confidence in crisis, because I didn't know I could in the beginning. So I was first coached by a coach about 12 years ago. And before that, I knew coaching. A lot of our leaders were getting coaching. I was head of talent for a large company, and they would all tell me, that's amazing, that's the best thing. But like, how do you know? Because it's behind the closed doors. And I always thought, there'll come a day when I'll try it. And there came a day of a big crisis. I lost my job in the UK. I had to stay in the market, learn how to position myself here, and so on. And my former leader, who was always supportive of coaching, went to study coaching, and he was doing PCC, and he was looking for for cases, and he said, I want to work with someone in transition. And I said, me, I am in transition. So what I thought then was, this is it. He's like a super senior HR person. He's gonna tell me how to find the job because I am in the transition. Thank God I was a bit more open-minded than just that. So I got very surprised in the beginning when we actually didn't start brainstorming, what my next job is and so on. And you're like, oh, I'm still curious. Okay, I'm going to stay with this. I have a lot of respect for this person. I'm going to stay with this. And we started talking about me having very high expectations of myself, me wanting things to be happening yesterday, and me actually not being patient with myself and demanding quite a lot, and me getting myself into this huge crisis by simply putting up quite a lot of expectations on myself. And so what we started doing is I started doing, with my coach's help, learning to slow down. And I appreciate, if I came to coaching and asked him, can you teach me to slow down? It would have never occurred to me that's what I needed, right? But through slowing down, through learning to be patient with myself and be loving to myself, I was gaining my confidence back. And as the story goes, obviously, with the confidence, I got the job. Because even going for the interviews, or even going for, after all of those um, ads and so on, I wasn't confident enough, so I was not projecting it. And so it took a coach and a half-a-year program to help me ground myself, slow down, to start believing in myself, and then the job followed as if by magic. So I looked at my coach and I thought, wow, I want to be like him when I grow up. And those guys who've seen me around know that's my favorite phrase. I'm still waiting, right, to grow up. And then 3 years later, I'm like 40 something, and I'm thinking, hang on a second, I am grown up. You know, I wanted to be like him. This is it. But at the same time, the crisis hit again. I lost my job again. And I'm thinking, this is it. As we all think in crisis, very linear. This is it. I'm going to go and study. I'm going to get my certification. I'm going to create a job for me. Never again am I going to suffer. I mean, great response in the crisis, right? And so I signed up for the ACC because I knew my coach was an integral coach. I knew if, when I grow up, I'm only going to do integral coaching. So I sign up for an integral school. Happens to be the first year in Switzerland. So I joined the ACC. I'm very determined. I'm expecting to get the certificate and to go on and so on, and all of this stuff that's happening, like the peer coaching, and they ask you and they probe, and then all of the wonderful exercises happen when you reflect on yourself, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, déjà vu. I am again in crisis. There's a lot going on in the background, and in this time I realize my relationships are totally screwed up. My small little toddler son is having health issues, so he's not his bubbly self. So my relationship with him is not like, let's have fun, but always like, what do we do so that he doesn't feel worse? My husband is concentrating on my son. We're losing our relationship. My teenage daughter sees everything and locks herself in her room, as teenagers do. And then my relationship with myself is like, I'm not doing enough. I need to get this job and so on. And it was like another epiphany moment. It's like, Olga, it happened to you once already. You were in crisis. You are in crisis again. You need to get your confidence back by working out sort of the inner self and all the interconnected things. And that's what my ACC journey was about. And I love when Janine says she cried every day, because it resonates. I did too, as you remember, because I needed it, and I needed to go through it, and I needed to understand that I can't just go linear. No job, let's get a job, let's get a certificate. This is not the solution to the crisis, because you're not addressing the deeper inner self to gain your confidence back. And I have to admit, I think I grew up a little bit then, and the reason I know that I grew up is because when the PCC time came, I came specifically to address one of my next humongous life crisis 5 years later. And yeah, that's probably a story for a different webinar, but I'm very proudly sharing that it took me 3 different stages to understand. First, that's what you do with a crisis. Second time, like, of course, that's what you do, but I forgot about it. And third time, it's like, yep, that's what I'm doing. I'm going into coaching.
And Olga, when you're talking about that slowing down and you're cultivating the perspective and the confidence that you needed, what's one thing that you found was really helpful?
Oh, practice. And I absolutely loved it. It was so new to me, and thank God I had a lot of respect to my coach from the professional life, that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm not sure it's gonna help, but I'm gonna do it. So my practice was I needed to start eating slowly, because I always run, and sort of without noticing things. And yes, even my daughter commented, and because I'm usually the first to finish at the table, and yeah, and I slowed down, and then I started walking slowly from the station back home, and all of a sudden I realized, ooh, spring, smells, trees, everything. It was amazing. So that, yes, slowing down. I was taught to slow down via very simple practices. Yeah.
And that's so interesting when you say that, because of course saying slowing down, that's very helpful. And you can even have the expression, which can maybe open up possibilities of saying you need to slow down in order to speed up, because when you go around a corner, right, they're helpful. And what you're saying is to be able to actually enable that to come alive, you need to literally slow down. And by doing granular things like eating more slowly, walking more slow, suddenly other possibilities or things that you were not aware of become aware, and you're able to notice them, which, yeah.
And the fun part is they're there. You
Exactly.
just do not notice them.
Exactly.
And it sounds so simple, and I guess unless you've done the practice, it doesn't strike you as much as when you are inside the practice. And yeah, it was the biggest revelation to me. And I know I joked with my coach, because I heard that integral coaching speaks, talks about meditation and so on. So the first meeting we had with him, and I said, I'm not meditating. And then at one point in the middle of the program, he says, well, do you think you have developed an appetite to try? And I was shocked at myself that I did develop the appetite. Yeah.
Exactly. And that comes with time. And it's about saying, what is relevant and helpful for you at that point, and and it's not about saying there's a blanket thing like everyone must meditate and sometimes meditation's the helpful thing. Sometimes it's about saying, I need to take a step back and look at what happened before and where I'm going and create hope. Maybe that's, so it's different for different. So how do we find what's will resonate for you, like your coach did with you, what you did with yourself in ACC and then continued in PCC, which is exactly that.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful segue to move kind of to where you come from, Hannah, with as I was saying earlier, around the wealth of experience that you bring from that more intuitive, instinctual space. And, there were things around, but perhaps we can start with the question around, what led you to a coaching journey? Because it didn't kind of just...
No, I wasn't planning it.
No.
And what I love about Olga's story there is her explaining what crisis was for her in her life, because I guess it was crisis that brought me to the coaching, but from a very different perspective. I was working in corporate events. I had a corporate events company in the mountains. It was great. I'd done it for 20 years and I loved it. Passionate skier, loved where I was living. I had a young child, Olga. There's a kind of a crossover there. I think that maybe can be a crisis crossover that shifted everything. Just a quick drink, my mouth. And I think there were so many elements, and I think I'll mention a few because I'm sure they'll resonate. Yeah, that questioning of, is this job still where I want to be? Something about it was feeling hollow, that I wanted to change. I didn't know how to and who I would be if I didn't do that anymore. That it was really being demanding in a way that I didn't feel I could fulfill from a motherhood role. I was having to travel a lot, spend time away, and that was super stressful. And obviously there was obviously at the time there was a global economic crisis. I was trying to renovate a house, so an added element. But the thing I think that really connected me, Daniel, with what you're talking about is this body awareness. Is I started to become aware of anger, of actually a lot of people around me being angry at me, and it suddenly hit me that it was something to do with me. And you're like, well, how am I showing up that brings this? And I didn't know how to explore that. And my first exploration actually was through somatic experiencing. So becoming more aware of my body and noticing what showed up in my body in various different situations. And it was just extraordinary, the difference or capacity that allowed me to be with myself and explore myself. So I think that was almost the first step of, okay, I'm in crisis, really feeling like I just have to get through the next day and the next day and the next day. And at some stage I'll come out of it. To actually, there's a way here that I can be with this. And I'd moved away from Chamonix for a while, and I'd come back and I was like, how do I carry on this journey and I looked up somatics and, you know, body work things, and the Center for Coaching came up in Geneva. I was like, that's kind of close. And it was before COVID, so it was like in-person stuff. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. Looked at the syllabus and so many of the elements that the course is built on. So from a philosophical point of view, yeah, to the body experience and the bringing in not just the head, but the actions and the feelings, it just, you know, really resonated with me. So there I was, had a conversation with Michelle actually, and signed up, and very swiftly it went from in-person to online as COVID struck. Yeah, but it was absolutely inviting me into the skills of being able to be aware of myself, which I don't think I'd had any real capacity to do previous to sort of signing up. I started to be aware that it was something to do with me, but I didn't know how to explore that. And to start to introduce possible practices, things that I did every day that could bring me into a state of, I'd say, less crisis and moving somewhere. I'm not sure exactly how confidence, if confidence is the right word for me, but it was definitely not feeling in crisis anymore.
And what did you learn, Hannah, about yourself around, because you were saying you suddenly became aware that other people were behaving in certain ways, and you hadn't kind of noticed perhaps what was catalyzing that or generating. So what did you learn about yourself as you were?
I think from that particular example, Daniel, it was interesting going from a point of, what the hell is their problem, right? To like, oh, there's like a pattern here and I'm like the center of it. And it's not happening to other people that are standing next to me. And so I think the first learning was, what's my role in my life?
Yes.
And how much through my noticing can I change that? And then it was like, well, how do you do that? How do you start to reflect on yourself and notice? And I think that was just the groundbreaking experience of being on CFD was, these are some tools that I can start to explore myself. And yeah, the learnings, or actually the freedom and choice of having different ways to show up was, it felt like, yeah, coming up for air, like, oh my God, there's different place to go with this.
Yes. And what I love about what you're saying is that I don't know how to deal with this, and there is a way that you can approach it. There's a structure, there's a methodology, there's an approach that can help you triangulate for you, like you were saying, this is what's happening around me. How do I become more aware of what is generating that pattern, which is now becoming something that I would like to deal with?
Sure.
And that's that kind of the insight of saying, yes, it's how do we do that in a way which is sufficiently structured, but yet sufficiently open that it can enable all of us, with all the wealth of things that we bring, to be able to pinpoint what that kind of, as you said, to where's this coming from? But then, of course, that isn't enough, right? And again, we come to the point of saying, well, then, so what did you do? What practices did you then identify or work with, which enabled you to navigate crises?
Sure. Interesting again that Olga was like, I'm not meditating. I mean, someone had suggested to me to meditate, and it wasn't something I'd thought really about before. And that's a practice that I do every day. Still, I've probably been meditating now for about 7 years. And it can vary, you know, from, you know, an ideal meditation time for me is about 40 minutes a day, but it can be one conscious breath. It's like, I don't go to bed without really consciously thinking about, where am I and how is my body? what's showing up for me, and giving myself time to be aware. And I think that's where the somatics comes in, is that when I can start to notice my nervous system, my thoughts, my sensations, it gives me another truth, maybe, that cognitively we so often think that we're thinking what's right. And that can be related to others as well. We think we know what's right for them too. But actually, by noticing myself, I'm very particularly kind of sensations and emotions through my body, it just gave me a different way of orientating that felt very much more authentic and valid for me.
Mm. I love what you're saying, Hannah, about that, how we can sometimes, if we're locked in too much, we can see the truth, which is the truth for us. And then we, as you pause, even if it's, as you said, just a breath, it's about then recognizing that this is a truth at this point for me, perhaps, and what is the truth that I'm projecting on others, and what might be other possible truths that are there.
Yeah.
And how do I start to become aware of that and open the way that I'm seeing the world by just, again, as Olga was saying as well, that slowing down in a way that works for you, to be able to see something that was not possible to see before.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think, that's it. It's that we're all different. And so there's no one way fits all. And having the kind of invitation to start exploring things that do work for you, or committing to a practice that does allow you to see yourself and others from a different perspective. I mean, that is a practice in itself, just open curiosity every day, to myself, to other people. We talk about the world at the moment of being in crisis, but there's also a curiosity as to, well, how do we respond to that? We don't necessarily have to respond from a place of crisis if we have these practices in place that allow us to explore how it feels for us.
And that always, I keep coming back to Viktor Frankl's thing of saying, the between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our growth and our freedom. And if we can find that infinitesimal space just there, we have choice, no matter what's going on and no matter how dire the circumstances are. And yet sometimes often it is so hard to just be able to lift our head enough when we are in the middle of the maelstrom of what's going on around us to be able to notice, I do have a space, a tiny space in which I can pivot and do something slightly different from what my normal pattern of behavior is. So that, that's
and that brings that sort of sensation out of crisis.
Exactly.
So it's like, noticing that space that's available to me that otherwise I wouldn't have noticed. And so from a nervous system point of view, you are acting, thinking, feeling from a whole different place.
Exactly. And there's something else, Hannah, that you pointed to, which I think is very important for all of us to consider. Notice that you said your meditation practice, you've been doing it every day for the last 7 years. And that points to the element which is around consistency and discipline in those practices you were both talking about. Whatever we commit to is ensuring that we do it, no matter how tiny, that we commit to doing it consistently. And out of that, things will emerge and grow. But without that, change is difficult to enact or enable. So that's another layer which enables us to be able to reach to what we are yearning for, that change that will happen over time.
Sure.
I would like to, open it out now for the next few minutes to questions. So you can pop your questions in the chat or unmute. and let us know if you have any questions. But while we're waiting for others to manifest with their questions, Olga, do you have any questions for Hannah or Hannah for Olga while we're waiting for questions to emerge?
You caught me off guard. Oh, there's Fiona.
Well, Fiona has a question ready. She's Fiona.
Thank you, Fiona.
You're ready. You're generally ready off the mark. I love it. Go for it. What's your question, Fiona?
Thank you. Thanks for the airtime. I'm intrigued, and thank you both so much for sharing your stories. It's always fascinating to listen to people developing self-awareness and being able to shift from where they're feeling stuck. So thank you for sharing that. My question is, how much do you think your personal experience of what you've both described has impacted how you work with your coaching clients?
A lot.
In what way?
That's such a good question. I think for me, it's the belief in the method that, I know I've been through it, and I know it's been amazingly helpful. I know I've been trained to help others get unstuck. So I don't only know it theoretically, I know that I've been through it and it helped me. So when I meet any potential client and I talk to them, I think it gives me more confidence, and also I believe I sound more convincing when I talk about what happens during the programs and how coaching might be helpful for a person to help them get unstuck. I think it gives me more internal credibility to be talking, and I think it shows up in the conversations. But also, as we all know, it's not helpful, because we try to project a lot of times our experiences on our clients, and we've all been there, right? And we all notice that, and that's that this might be another subject, Daniel, for another webinar for us to talk about.
With pleasure.
Sorry, Hannah, you wanted to add?
Yeah, thanks, Fiona. I think you might have asked me that as my mentor coach at some stage on PCC. For me, yeah, absolutely. I just have this belief in the experience of the body that I don't think we're not so used to exploring. And so I think often we look at things about how are we acting or how are we thinking about it. And so really deepening this, what am I feeling? How am I feeling it? Where do I feel it? And giving it as much airtime as possible really adds a different dimension to how people can experience themselves. So yeah, hugely. But as Olga was saying, there's a balanced integral, which is we're looking at various different aspects of the person. And so, just trying not to let that take over sometimes, because I think it's just like walking into a whole world that a lot of the time people haven't experienced before. So yeah, short answer, like Olga said, is a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, fascinating. And I think what resonated with me is that sense of how you feel about yourself. And that's obviously going to have an impact on how you appear and come across to the people that you're working with. So if you've dealt with stuff and you've got that grounded persona, you'll be better equipped to hold the space for them when they're dealing with something that you may have already gone through. Yeah, and well done, Olga, and putting your hand up and saying, yeah, but sometimes we know too much. One of the biggest challenges for us as coaches. Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. And yeah, it's about exactly how do we let go of what we know while in bringing those areas of our lives to the fore which we have forgotten. because those were things that I had forgotten, which I needed reminding of, and I still need reminding of, like I was mentioning my martial arts, which is still there, but it gets crowded out by other things of me knowing, of me saying or telling. And how do I bring that balance in to be able to engage more from that space of allowing the other person to flourish, as opposed to projecting what you guys were mentioning. Yeah. Catherine, you have a question.
Yes, I'm interested because this is really the first exploration into the area of coaching, and I haven't done any personal coaching. I come from the corporate world. I've been in a corporate environment for a very long time. I've just retired, and I suppose I should have done possibly been exposed to some coaching, but it never really crossed my path. But the intersection between I'm you talk about method, but we got into some very specifics here around somatics and personal experience. The intersection between where almost therapy and coaching. That
What would you like to know? Where is that
and so this what
intersection?
so well I'm interested your answer to that.
Okay. Okay. Well, would either of you like to field that question, or would you like me to?
You go for it, Daniel.
Okay, with pleasure. Because that's an area, the other day I was actually exploring this with a group of senior leaders who were going through an introductory program, Catherine, to coaching. And we wanted to put it up front and center, because there is that perception that coaching can be seen as being therapeutic. And how I like to see it, just to simplify things, is to say coaching is a modality where we work with somebody who is whole, who's healthy. But you know what, Catherine, and everyone here, we all have stuff, right? That we've dealt with or not dealt with, our past, which can be helpful or can hinder us, right? And can get in the way. And when I'm working with anyone, whether I'm a coach or whether I'm a leader, and this was, as I say, working with leaders who were just learning about the very superficial level of how do I engage in a more coaching way with the people that I'm working with, is to invite all of us to not shy away from stuff which we feel is emotional, difficult, traumatic. We've dealt with it. I've had trauma in my life, big stuff.
We all have, yeah.
With it. But we all have. And it's not saying that let's pretend that it doesn't exist. It's okay. It does exist. How does this and how can I, as a leader or as a coach, integrate that in the work that I do? Because it's learning, it's precious learnings that I'm bringing to the fore of the way that I can navigate future possibilities that are coming my way, that I can use. If I notice, however, that the person is getting continually drawn back into the past, there might be reason for me to go, let me put up my hand and go. And if I feel out of depth now because a person keeps going back to the past, then maybe I would need to go to a space where and find someone else, a colleague or a friend or somebody who knows more about therapy, coaching, etc., and go, I'm not entirely sure here. But my invitation is for all of us here, let's not shy away from that. Let's use the deep potential that all of us have in the learnings that we can bring, and use that in the way we help others to navigate the way in which they engage with future challenges and opportunities, because it's part of us, right? It's part of our DNA. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, just in not necessarily officially coaching, but having colleagues and people that report to you, one deals with all these things all the time, almost as an empathetic person, and it's all the somatics. I mean, I've spent years dealing with somatics as a woman, and you have women who work for you, you know, you've gone through it all, you know, you've gone through motherhood and what it means to have children and go through all of those things. You know, you understand what the, you know, how difficult it was to navigate all that.
And perhaps this is an opportunity now for me to invite Janine, who's going to also talk to us about the coaching for development, to perhaps take the floor and give us a little bit more of insight as to how we work with human beings on coaching for development and what that looks like. And Janine, for all of those who are here who don't know, we share the same name. Obviously, we're related. We're brother and sister. I'm very proud to have Janine as my sister and co-partner owner of Center for Coaching here in Switzerland. She heads up Center for Coaching in South Africa. We've been working together for the last many years now, at least 10 since Olga did her first coaching program the coaching program we launched here in Switzerland. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Janine, who is also, in addition to being a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Town and heading up the Center for Coaching, is also a master certified coach, which of course we're all very proud of.
Yes. Thank you, Daniel. That was a very painful process getting my MCC. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not the only MCC here, Master Certified Coach. So to those, there are a number of my classmates from when I studied. It's about more than 20 years ago now. So it's a very, very good to see so many old faces or young faces returning. So memories blossoming. So I so appreciate Hannah and Olga, what you've shared and how you've shared it, and Daniel for running it. I think perhaps you speak to the fact that perhaps what differentiates the way we teach is that you don't just arrive to learn how to do something to somebody else. When you join us on the Coaching for Development, you yourself will experience a developmental journey, because our belief is you can't expect somebody to do something if they haven't experienced it themselves, not something as rich and deep as coaching. So on the program itself, there's so much more than just the technical aspect of learning a new skill. So I'm going to grab onto a couple of slides. But as I go, it would be really great if anybody has questions about the actual 6-month Coaching for Development program, whether you've done it already or you're thinking of doing it, please pop them into the chat, because that's much more of a conversational approach than me just speaking. But just very briefly, it is a 6-month course. 99.9% of the people who do it whilst they are working. Many people are nearing the end of their careers or at a transition of their careers. So we get quite a lot of younger students now as well. We call you all students, so you get that youthful feeling. But it's really powerful because it's 8 days. It's only 8 days of 3 online virtual sessions. But what's amazing is it's a journey. It's a 6-month journey where you can either start with a cohort that starts in May, or you can start with another one in September. And so you not only come to the modules, but you also get a learning pod. And there, either once or twice a month, you actually have 2 hours, usually in the evenings. Most people vote, or sometimes not, depending on the members in that small group of sort of between 5 and 6 people. You get your very own professional coach dedicated to you, mentoring you through the CFD process. So there's a lot of one-on-one interaction. And I think that's what makes the online so amazing, even in the modules, because all these mentors also join us for the module. So you actually have breakaways all the time. We're in the room, and then learning some theory for like, say, 15, maximum 20 minutes, and then you break away into small groups with the professional coach, and you work through what you experience. So it's incredibly interactive. Don't think you can sit there and do something else. It's we don't. But you get your learning experience with your mentor coach. And of course, there are also assignments and case studies, but they're not academic assignments. They're reflections, almost self-coaching. So you don't receive one-on-one coaching from faculty on this program, but you coach each other throughout. And each module, you will get coaching from a peer, and you'll notice how that improves. And of course, it's flexible learning. So you get 2 to 3 hours per week. We'll see you through this program. What do you receive? What do you walk away with? You get a certificate. You get 2. So for those of you internationally, you may not be that interested in the fact that the top university in Africa has got this as a certificated program. We, of course, are very proud of this, but and any university in the world is always useful to have a university certificate. But you will notice that the Center for Coaching Certificate is also accredited with, in that far corner, is the International Coaching Federation. So this is the certificate here, the one that the ICF is interested in. When you finish your 6 months with us, you can apply to the ICF for your coach credential, which is the level 1, 90 hours of coach-specific training. So it's an internationally recognized and a university level program. And just to give you the perspective, there's 3 modules of 3 days. Module 1, the foundations. Module 2, deepening, and some deeper work on the models. And once you've gone out and applied it. And module 3, we start a little bit of somatic coaching, just to give you a flavor, because as we say, actually it's a bit like matriculating or finishing school. You think that's the end, but actually it's the beginning. So the end of the course is almost like the beginning of your practicing as a coach. Right, so that's, and I'm the course leader but I have an enormous, well, you know, we have faculty of a ratio of about 6 to 1, which means that there's often, when there's a group of 30, there'll be, you know, a good sort of 8 or 9 faculty members with us as well. So we call ourselves an octopus teacher, because we teach as one. We talk about you all day long, and we think about you a lot, and we connect, and we work as one to give you the most powerful experience possible. I'm just looking at the questions here. Okay, great, Athene. We look forward to meeting you and pronouncing your name correctly. I worry I didn't do that. Catherine, thank you for that. Yes, that is one of the things. Sometimes the most simple things are the most profound things. You know, it sounds simple, but how often do we as humans meet people as they are today, here and now? And that's actually quite a skill to have to learn. It doesn't just happen. I think before you can, yeah, so post-CFD, we don't require that you have to have logged a certain number of coaching hours before you move to our year-long professional coaching course. You are welcome to continue your training, which a lot of people do. They continue after the 6 months, they go to the very next year-long course, because they want to become, you know, creme de la creme professional coach, accredited at that very senior level. Having said that, one can definitely, about 2/3 of our students choose to stop at the 6-month course coaching for development level, which I can say, when we've evaluated this course against many internationally, you're still amongst the best trained coaches out there. So it's a very solid qualification. Inke, yes.
Hello. I've got a question. So I'm busy doing a course with another institution, and I was wondering, how do you know, if I was to switch over to one of your programs, is it easy to do that? Yeah, I'm currently doing an ACC or going for my ACC badge certification.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, you wouldn't be alone. We do have a number of people who come to us who've either studied coaching before or who are qualified therapists, or who have done a different qualification. I think because we teach in a very so we take you on a journey from the very first moment of the first day right through the 6 months. It's not like an academic program where you do a module here and a module there, and maybe you get a credit for this module. Then so you don't tick module boxes like in an academic program. It's very much a practitioner's program. So you wouldn't be bored. Nobody's ever said it was a waste of time. But it would definitely deepen your practice. And the lovely point with the integral approach is it builds on what people already know. So you wouldn't, like, sometimes we have NLP practitioners who come to us, for example, and which is a very specific way of coaching, and they see, with an integral approach, of course, I can still use my NLP, but there's more that I can bring forward. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, Inga.
Sort of.
Happy to take the conversation offline. It might be something specific. Yes?
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, happy.
Right, in the 3 minutes that we have left, I would like to just start by saying thank you very much to Olga and Hannah for coming along and sharing your stories with us, because this is what makes this kind of work come alive, because all of us have our stories, and it's so fascinating. I learn something new every time. I kind of engage from a different space every time. And this is what makes any kind of journey like this so enriching and enlivening. And I'd just like to give both of you an opportunity, a minute, just to say anything you'd like to say in closing, before we've finished off at the top of the half hour. So let's start. Hannah, over to you.
Thanks, Daniel. It's really a privilege to be here and talk about it, to be honest. It's changed my life so hugely, and just given me the capacity to feel more confident and comfortable in my ability to show up for myself and others. And so it's wonderful to be here and talk about it. Big gift. And I don't really have much more to add.
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Olga, over to you.
Thanks, Daniel. I just read somebody's comment with 40 years in corporate leadership role, Peter, who said that going through the program was the best development that he could have received. And it just struck me right into my heart, because I agree that's exactly what happened to me as well. And I might sometimes think that I haven't grown up yet, but the days when I think I'm grown up, I'm so grateful for the choices I've made to go into coaching and to study, and like for the opportunities like today to structure your thoughts and to reflect on it, and to go against like, oh yeah, I am grown up. So thank you for this. I need a reminder of this every once in a while.
It's such a pleasure, Olga. Thank you. And Janine, any closing remarks from your side?
I am so touched about the number of people who've arrived who've already done the CFD. And thank you all for being here. It's such a gift. But I'm also delighted to see those who are curious about it. And if you do want to talk more, find out more, you're welcome to speak either to our other partner, Daniel, is our sister Michelle, who looks after She's our academic director in Switzerland, or myself in South Africa. We're very, very happy to talk to you all day long about this amazing program. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Janine. And thank you again, Olga and Hannah, for taking the time and giving us the gift of your reflection and your, taking that opportunity to take the balcony and look at your lives from that perspective. It's a gift and a really welcome privilege to be able to share in your journeys. And thank you all for coming. Thank you, Yael, for being there in the background to support, and Tamila for setting everything up. And thank you all for joining us. And if you would like to stay on, we're here. We're going to stay on. But otherwise, have a lovely evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening wherever you may be in the world, and look forward to hearing from you.
Cheers, everyone.